Hello, wonderful people. Welcome to Anime Dreams. I'm thrilled to have you all here on my YouTube channel. Today, we're diving into another exciting fanfiction discussion. What if Naruko was born in Uchiha? Part 3. But before we begin, a quick disclaimer. This channel is dedicated to entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage featured in my videos. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Itachi. Yes, Shisui? Itachi turned to see Shisui dashing toward him. It was quite a sight. The way he ran was anything but graceful. Anyone unfamiliar with him would never guess he was a shinobi, let alone the most formidable Uchiha of their generation. The past 2 years had been transformative for him. Itachi, once a close second in strength, was no longer as near. But he didn't mind. That had never been his goal. Naruko's birthday is next week. She'll be turning 6 and will finally be able to go out on her own. I'm still figuring out where to take her, but I want you to be there. Shisui grinned at his best friend. Of course, I'll come. You can bring your sister if you'd like. And with that, Shisui vanished in a blur, leaving Itachi chuckling at his friend's antics. Even with everything going on, moments like these brought him a sense of normalcy. The situation with the clan was worsening, and it seemed like nothing could change its course. They had anticipated trouble, but now that it was happening, Itachi shook off the thought. He knew action would be necessary soon, but Shisui assured him he had a plan if all else failed. Itachi had an idea of what that plan might be, though he wasn't certain how it would affect Shisui. No matter what, he would stand by his best friend's side. His thoughts drifted to his sister. Should he bring her? It would be an unusual first meeting, attending a birthday celebration for someone she had never met. That had to be awkward. Right? Either way, he would be there. He saw Naruko from time to time when visiting Shisui, but this would be different. Ah, I missed the chance to ask if he's inviting you Gao, Itachi murmured with a smirk. He knew Shisui had feelings for the Anbu Kunoichi but had never acted on them. Hokage Tower. Sandaime-sama, Shisui said, bowing respectfully. Yes, Shisui-san? As you know, Naruko's birthday is next week. Would you be able to attend? I know she's quite fond of you and would love to see you there. I wouldn't miss it. I imagine you're still deciding on the location. Yugao mentioned that she might have unintentionally introduced her to ramen. Perhaps Ichiraku's? Oh no. First Kakashi gets her hooked on TV, and now she's obsessed with ramen? Shisui shook his head in mock exasperation. If it were up to her, she'd eat it for every meal. That can't be healthy. Hiruzen chuckled at Shisui's reaction. The young Uchiha was known for his skill and unwavering loyalty, but he also had a light-hearted side that made him stand out. There was no doubt in the Hokage's mind, Shisui would go to any lengths if it meant protecting those he cared about. Nearby, Yugao, one of the Hokage's personal guards, overheard the conversation. She stifled a laugh. In her defense, she hadn't meant to get Naruko addicted to ramen, she simply hadn't felt like cooking one night and grabbed takeout from Ichiraku's. She never expected the young girl to fall in love with it instantly. Speaking of which, Hokage-sama, if you see her later, could you extend an invitation? Shisui asked. Why not ask her yourself? Shisui hesitated, suddenly looking nervous. Because, he muttered, his voice unconsciously rising in pitch. Hiruzen fought the urge to laugh. He knew exactly why Shisui was acting this way. And, of course, he was well aware that Yugao was right above them, listening. Because why? The Hokage prodded. Just. Hokage-sama, please? Shisui practically begged. All right, Hiruzen relented, finally letting out a chuckle. I'll be sure to let her know for you. Thank you. And with that, Shisui vanished in a puff of smoke. Hiruzen let out a full laugh. If only he knew you were right above us. Yugao, blushing slightly, realized what had just happened. She had long suspected Shisui had feelings for her, but this all but confirmed it. Perhaps this celebration would be the perfect opportunity for them to finally take a step forward. Over the years she had spent watching over Naruko, she and Shisui had grown close. If she was honest with herself, she had developed feelings for him nearly 4 years ago. She had always wondered if he felt the same, but now she had her answer. Now, the only question was, what would she do about it? She recalled how Shisui would endlessly tease her about Naruko mischievously taking and hiding her katana. She had been searching frantically, only to find Naruko, who remained silent yet clearly understood what she had done. That impish grin and those eyes filled with pure mischief made it obvious. Then, Shisui walked in, immediately recognizing that something was amiss just from the look on Naruko's face. Once he heard what had happened, he burst into uncontrollable laughter. Though he kept the incident between the three of them, something she was grateful for, he never let her forget it. The most amusing part was that Naruko had hidden the katana in plain sight. It was a clever tactic. Most people instinctively search for hidden or covered places, but Naruko used that expectation against them by leaving things out in the open where they were least expected. At first, Shisui was baffled by how Naruko managed to plan such tricks, but when she repeated the pattern multiple times, it became clear that she understood exactly what she was doing. From the time Naruko was 3, Shisui had been teaching her about chakra, not how to use it, but simply building her understanding, as he didn't want to rush her into training. However, he had started instructing her in kendo and basic taijutsu forms. An unexpected event led to Naruko staying home more after she turned 4. Shisui had wanted to take her out to celebrate her birthday, but fate had other plans. On that very day, she awakened the Sharingan at just 4 years old. It was a startling moment for Shisui, as he realized Naruko was in danger, but for her, it was overwhelming. The day had started with such excitement and joy. Flashback. Naruko, are you ready? You're going to miss your own birthday. Shisui called out, laughing. Naruko was taking forever to get ready, but he couldn't blame her. It was her first time leaving home, her first time seeing the outside world. She had been anticipating this moment for as long as she could remember. Finally, she stepped into the living room, wearing a black sleeveless hoodie over an orange t-shirt, black wristbands, and matching black shorts with sandals. You look great, Naruko. Thank you, Nisan. She beamed. Though they were cousins, hearing her call him that brought a warm smile to Shisui's face. He cherished their bond like that of siblings. Oh no. I just remembered, I have to take care of something real quick, okay? Stay here, I'll be right back. Aw, come on. I already had to wait so long, and now you're making me wait even more? That's just cruel. Naruko teased, trying to hold back a laugh. I promise, it'll be quick, Shisui assured her. It better be. She huffed playfully. Shisui chuckled and ruffled her spiky hair. Hey! She protested, swatting his hand away. I'll be back before you know it, he said before vanishing in a puff of smoke. Naruko watched in fascination at how effortlessly he disappeared. Slightly annoyed, she plopped down on the couch. After about 10 minutes, she heard the sound of the door unlocking. Thinking it was Shisui, she called out excitedly. Ni-san. Wait. Who are you two? Two unfamiliar figures stood in the doorway, clad in black cloaks and wearing featureless white masks. She had seen masks before, Shisui's old one, Yugao's, but those had some distinct colors and designs. These, however, were devoid of any individuality, stripped of any identity. They simply stared at her. Though she didn't understand what was happening, an ominous feeling crept over her. A sense of danger filled the air. Naruko had no real combat experience. She had started training, but against opponents like these, it wouldn't make a difference. If they meant her harm, she was powerless. Fear gripped her. Her body began to tremble as an unfamiliar sensation washed over her, an invisible force pressing down, making her feel small and helpless. It was as if their mere presence radiated an intense, suffocating pressure. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed to her knees, unable to move. Her mind raced, desperately trying to think of what to do, but she was paralyzed by fear. One of them stepped forward, slowly, deliberately. Naruko's eyes widened as she watched him draw his katana. It was a beautiful blade. She had always admired swords, fascinated by the stories they seemed to hold within them. But never did she think she'd be looking at one like this. The tip of the sword pointed toward the ceiling before swiftly descending, aiming to strike. Naruko observed the motion, initially overwhelmed by the speed, until the blade was mere inches from her neck. At that moment, time seemed to slow. Every detail of the blade's approach became clear, yet she found herself unable to close her eyes. A strange sensation burned in them, an odd mix of fear and intensity, making her wish for everything to stop. Then, in a sudden blur of motion, a metallic clang rang out. The intruders collapsed, neutralized in an instant. Naruko blinked in confusion, her senses dulling. Voices called out to her, but they were distant, muffled. Her vision blurred, and as her balance faltered, she began to fall backward. Shisui caught her just as she lost consciousness, his sharp gaze immediately locking onto the newly awakened Sharingan in her eyes. "Naruko. I'm sorry," he murmured, his voice filled with regret. A tear slipped down his cheek. For 4 years, their home had remained untouched, and he had let his guard down. It was a mistake, one he would never make again. Now, urgent matters demanded his attention. First, identifying the attackers was impossible, a sealing jutsu had erased their remains. Second, Naruko's training had to intensify. She would not leave the house until she could protect herself, either by escaping or holding out until help arrived. Beyond that, he hoped her Sharingan would fully mature. Even if not, the development of a two-tomoe Sharingan would grant her the ability to match most seasoned shinobi. But skill alone wouldn't be enough. To properly utilize the Sharingan's heightened perception, she needed speed. Without it, she would fall into the same fate many Uchiha had, witnessing an unavoidable attack in excruciating slow motion, unable to react. Flashback end. Shisui had found unwavering support in Itachi during those turbulent times. His emotions had burned with frustration, and the desire to take action had been overwhelming. Yugao's presence had been a source of comfort, gradually easing the weight of his anger and sorrow, just as Itachi had once done for him. Meanwhile, Hiruzen had been furious over the attack. He knew exactly who was responsible, but without concrete evidence, he was powerless to act. That year marked a turning point for Naruko. She fully awakened her Sharingan and, by the age of 5, had already mastered the fundamentals of Kenjutsu, aided by her visual prowess. Her taijutsu progressed rapidly as she trained in the Uchiha-style interceptor fist, alongside the general principles of hand-to-hand combat. The accelerated learning process was a direct result of the Sharingan's ability to analyze and adapt. However, Shisui was careful to ensure Naruko understood an important lesson: copying a technique was not the same as mastering it. True proficiency came from experience and repetition. No jutsu could be considered fully mastered until it could be performed with minimal or no hand signs. Despite her eagerness to learn ninjutsu, Naruko's training remained focused on weapon mastery. While jutsu required chakra, a blade, shuriken, or kunai did not. Though chakra could enhance weapon techniques, the physical toll was far less than that of elemental jutsu. Each day, Naruko pushed herself to her limits. She ran tirelessly, trained relentlessly, and collapsed from exhaustion every night, only to rise again the next morning with renewed determination. For 2 years, her dedication remained unwavering. By then, her natural speed had reached the level of a low-ranking jonin, prompting Shisui to introduce her to the body flicker technique, Shunshin no Jutsu. Adjusting to the technique proved to be a challenge. Shisui couldn't help but laugh every time Naruko miscalculated and crashed into something. The skill was typically refined at the Chunin level and beyond, yet Naruko was determined to master it early. Her progress was nothing short of remarkable, and Shisui was immensely proud. Even Itachi was impressed, often engaging in sword sparring sessions with her. Naruko was skilled enough to hold her own for an extended period, at times, nearly forcing Itachi to concede. However, experience was not yet on her side, and ultimately, she would always fall short. Hiruzen became a frequent visitor after the incident, spending time with Naruko and sharing his vast knowledge. His stories captivated her, his wisdom and experiences painted a world beyond what she had known. Though, given his age, it was no surprise that he had countless tales to tell. Kakashi, though increasingly occupied with Anbu duties, cherished his time with Naruko. Despite his exhaustion, he made sure to visit, often watching TV with her. Shisui found their habit slightly annoying, but the bond they shared was undeniable. Naruko deeply admired Kakashi, looking up to him as a role model. At present, Naruko sat immersed in a book on genjutsu theory, her mind captivated by the art's unique potential. Unlike physical combat, genjutsu allowed one to defeat an opponent without lifting a weapon. The idea fascinated her, the ability to turn imagination into a powerful tool. In battle, losing one's mind was as devastating as any physical blow, and she was determined to become a master of mental warfare. "Naruko, what are you reading?" She looked up and smiled. "Hey, Nisan. Itachi Nisan gave me this book on genjutsu." Shisui chuckled, pleased to see Naruko take an interest in his closest friend's expertise. Would you like to learn one?" Naruko leapt with excitement, her enthusiasm radiating as she bounced in front of Shisui. He couldn't help but chuckle at her animated and playful behavior. "Depending on how well you grasp this technique, I'll teach you another one," Shisui said with a grin. "All right. Let's do this." Naruko cheered, practically dragging Shisui to their indoor training area. "All right, this is a D-rank genjutsu called demonic illusion, hell viewing technique." "What does it do?" she asked, eyes wide with curiosity. "This technique allows you to make the target see something they fear. Initially, they'll be surrounded by a swirl of leaves before being transported into an illusion of your creation, showing them their greatest fear. The strength of the illusion depends on your level of mastery. As you improve, the illusion will become more refined, the leaves can be replaced with different elements, and the entire technique can evolve from a simple D rank to something as powerful as an A rank genjutsu." "Whoa! That sounds amazing. Teach me." Naruko beamed with excitement. "I have a challenge for you, Naruko. If you can master this genjutsu within 6 days, I'll take you to Ichiraku's for your birthday," Shisui said, knowing her love for ramen. Naruko's eyes lit up with determination, and without hesitation, she dove straight into training. Shisui stepped back, observing her as she repeatedly practiced the hand signs, committing them to memory. A fond smile formed on his face. "I truly admire this kid. No matter the challenge, she always faces it with a smile. I can't wait to see the kind of ninja she becomes," he thought. "Do you think it's wise for her to start learning genjutsu?" Shisui turned to see Kakashi approaching. "Ah, Kakashi. How are you?" "I'm doing well. How's she progressing?" "She's doing great. And honestly, I think it's the right time. It's only a genjutsu, after all. She wants to master the art. Do you know why?" Shisui asked, looking at Kakashi. She believes that if you can influence the mind, you can win without even fighting. She understands that strategy can be just as powerful as direct combat." Kakashi nodded thoughtfully. "I can't blame her. If I had the same proficiency in genjutsu as you and Itachi, I would have wanted to master it too. Judging by her hand signs, I assume you're teaching her the hell viewing technique?" "That's right. I want to see how well she can control it. If she has the talent, she'll be able to shape the illusion world to her will, making it far more advanced than a simple D-rank technique. It could even rival the one I use," Shisui said, hopeful about Naruko's potential. The only other person he had ever considered teaching this to was Itachi, yet, for some reason, Itachi had struggled to grasp its full depth. "Are you serious? That kind of ability can be dangerous." Kakashi's tone held a hint of concern. I'm completely serious. Ever since that incident. I understand, Kakashi said, his expression darkening slightly. Listen, if you ever need help with her ninjutsu training, I'll gladly assist. You know I have quite an extensive arsenal. I'd appreciate that, Kakashi. That would mean a lot. My jutsu mainly come from fire, but if my theory is correct, she might have 3 elemental affinities. 3? Kakashi raised an eyebrow. What makes you think that? As an Uchiha, fire is a given. Her father also had a strong lightning affinity. Meanwhile, her mother had a natural talent for wind and some water manipulation. I'm confident she has fire, and she likely inherited lightning from her father. But considering her Uzumaki lineage and her immense chakra reserves, I wouldn't be surprised if she also possesses wind. I doubt she inherited water, though, since that was more of a secondary element for her mother. Kakashi let out a low whistle. If that's the case, she has the potential to become a powerhouse in ninjutsu, a master of genjutsu, and even an expert swordswoman. Shisui nodded. And that's only scratching the surface of what she's capable of. Imagine how quickly she'll develop once she learns shadow clones, or when she begins harnessing the power of the Kyuubi. Or when she truly awakens the full potential of the Sharingan. Kakashi exhaled, shaking his head in amazement. That's incredible, Shisui. Oh. Before I forget, would you like to attend Naruko's birthday celebration next week? Of course. Have you finally decided on a venue for the celebration? Yes. Though I made it into a little challenge, the speaker replied with a chuckle. Kakashi laughed at that. Let me guess, you gave her an incentive? Exactly. If she manages to master this genjutsu within 6 days, we'll celebrate at Ichiraku's. That's a clever way to inspire her. Now she'll be even more determined to succeed. Yeah. But honestly, I'll take her there regardless. She loves their ramen, and I want her to enjoy her first outing beyond her usual routine. Kakashi chuckled. That's a bit mischievous of you. If she doesn't master it, she'll be disappointed, but then surprised when you take her anyway. It'll be a great way to reward her efforts, whether she succeeds or not. You know, I still haven't figured out what to gift her. That doesn't surprise me. You always put a lot of thought into your gifts, making them both meaningful and practical. Exactly. She's still so young. I don't want to burden her, but I know she truly wants to learn. Maybe I should teach her the Uchiha's signature technique. That would be significant. Her first ninjutsu should be something special, something tied to her lineage. Speaking of which, Shisui, I wanted to ask for your permission regarding something. What is it? You know how much I respected Sensei. Because of that, Naruko is very important to me. If she has a strong lightning affinity. Of course, Kakashi. It would be an honor for you to teach her your technique. Kakashi gave a grateful nod. At that moment, everything felt peaceful and full of hope. As they watched the young girl training with enthusiasm, they couldn't help but smile, feeling as if these happy days would last forever. Hokage's office. Itachi-kun. How have you been? Not well, Lord Third. The clan remains steadfast in their plans. I fear that within a year at most, they will take drastic action. Hiruzen's expression grew serious. He had hoped it wouldn't come to this. He genuinely cared for the Uchiha clan, one of his closest friends had been a member of it. If conflict arose, it would bring misfortune to everyone involved. Is there anything we can do to prevent this? At this stage, I have my doubts, Itachi admitted. He then met Hiruzen's gaze with renewed determination. However, Shisui told me that if all else fails, he has a plan. I trust him. Then bring him in tomorrow. Understood. Hokage meeting room, the next day. When Itachi and Shisui arrived, they found Hiruzen already present, along with the village elders. Danzo sat to Hiruzen's right, while Homura and Kohara occupied the left. Thank you both for coming. Before we begin, could you summarize the situation for the elders? Shisui and Itachi explained everything in detail. Concern was evident on the elders' faces, except for Danzo, who remained composed, as if this information was not new to him. Could he have already known? Was he somehow involved? Hiruzen, I have warned you from the beginning. The Uchiha cannot be trusted. It was only a matter of time before such a situation arose, Danzo stated firmly. Danzo? How dare you speak like that? Have you forgotten that some of our most valued allies were Uchiha? Kagami was one of our closest comrades, and Minato deeply respected them as well. Hiruzen countered. They were exceptions, Danzo replied coolly. They prioritized the village above all else. But the current Uchiha clan is different. They cannot be trusted. We must act first and eliminate them before they become a threat. That is out of the question, Danzo. Hiruzen said firmly. I will not turn against our own people. You're too lenient, Hiruzen, Danzo said, shaking his head. Shisui, seeing the tension in the room, stepped forward. Lord Third, if I may. Go ahead, Shisui. Do you have a solution? Enough of this. Danzo interjected. We should not waste time. Silence, Hiruzen ordered. Shisui, continue. I can stop the uprising. In 5 days, the clan will convene for a crucial meeting. I will use my Koto Umatsukami on Fugaku-sama, ensuring that he abandons any plans of rebellion. Danzo's eyes narrowed. That technique. How exactly do you intend to accomplish that? My Koto Umatsukami is a unique and unparalleled genjutsu, the most powerful of its kind. Once activated, I can subtly guide an individual's thoughts, influencing their decisions without them ever realizing it. I can reshape memories or introduce new ones entirely. By using it, I can ensure that the desire for conflict is replaced with a longing for harmony. They will truly believe that peace is what they have always wanted, entirely of their own free will. The room fell into stunned silence. The sheer implications of such a technique were astonishing. It was the pinnacle of genjutsu. Danzo narrowed his eyes, his distrust of an Uchiha wielding such power evident. Hiruzen, on the other hand, found a glimmer of hope, believing this could be a viable solution, while the other village elders remained caught between skepticism and contemplation. Itachi observed Shisui with concern. He understood the immense burden that came with such an ability. Even if it was necessary, it still meant altering someone's mind, shaping their very thoughts. Shisui remained quiet, his eyes closed as he reflected on the gravity of his proposal. Yet, there was no alternative. This had to be done. Very well, Shisui. I will permit you to proceed, Hiruzen finally said. Hokage-sama, you cannot be serious, Danzo objected. That is enough, Danzo, Hiruzen responded firmly. Hi. Thank you, Lord Third, Shisui said, bowing respectfully from his kneeling position. In just 5 days, the conflict would be resolved, and peace could be restored within the village. Naruko would not have to endure the chaos of a civil struggle and would have the opportunity to truly connect with her Uchiha kin. Everything could be set right, allowing Naruko, Itachi, Kakashi, Hiruzen, Yugao, and the rest of their comrades to live together in peace and security. As Shisui and Itachi walked together, a heavy silence lingered between them. Both knew that in 5 days, the situation would reach its conclusion, but the weight of manipulating someone's will was not an easy burden to carry. Shisui, are you certain about this? Itachi finally asked. Yes, Itachi. If I go through with this, the conflict will be resolved, and we can all live peacefully within the village. Naruko won't have to experience war. We can remain together as a family, you, Kakashi, Naruko. This is for all of you. Shisui. Don't worry, my friend. I've got this, Shisui said, offering a reassuring smile. I'm going to check on Naruko's progress with genjutsu. See you later, Itachi. If it's for the two of you, I will do whatever it takes, No matter the cost, Itachi thought to himself. 5 days later, Shisui woke up early and made his way to Naruko's room, only to find it empty. He frowned slightly. She must have been training all night, he mused. Heading to the dojo, he found Naruko lying on the floor, wearing the biggest smile he had ever seen. For you. And Itachi. I will do anything for you, Shisui thought with a fond smile. Hey, Naruko, Shisui said, gently shaking her awake. Huh? Oh. Ni-san. Guess what? Naruko exclaimed, sitting up excitedly. Shisui chuckled. What is it? He had a feeling he already knew what she was about to say. I mastered it. I narrowed it down to a single hand sign. And I can activate it without physical contact. Shisui's eyes widened slightly. Wait, without physical contact? Yeah. I figured it out by accident. I pointed at someone walking by, and the next thing I knew, they were caught in my genjutsu. I ended it right away, but yeah. I don't need to touch anyone to use it. Naruko? Am I in trouble? She asked, tilting her head. Not exactly. Just be more careful next time. But I have to say, I'm impressed. I never expected you to achieve such a high level of mastery so quickly. Even I require some form of contact to transmit my chakra for genjutsu. Whoa, Ni-san. That means I'm awesome. Naruko beamed. Shisui laughed, ruffling her hair. Yes, you are, Naruko. At this rate, you might even surpass me someday. Naruko grinned. So, what am I learning next? I'll give you a scroll later with some new techniques, Shisui promised. But as per our deal, tomorrow we're celebrating your birthday at Ichiraku's. Yay! Ramen, ramen, ramen. Naruko cheered. Haha, go get some rest, Naruko, Shisui said, shaking his head with a smile. Naruko nodded and eagerly left to freshen up. She was beyond excited. Tomorrow was going to be the best day ever. 4 hours before the clan meeting. Lord Danzo. You asked to see me? Shisui stood before Danzo, who regarded him with a scrutinizing gaze, his expression unreadable. How can you be certain this will work? Danzo questioned. This genjutsu cannot be dispelled by ordinary means. It remains active unless I choose to modify or remove it. Even in my absence, the effect will persist, Shisui explained confidently. Yes. But what of the other Uchiha? Surely, there will be those who remain discontent. How can you ensure that future generations will not rise in defiance once more? Shisui furrowed his brow. What exactly are you implying? Even if we manage to stop this now, what guarantees that history won't repeat itself? The clan has already taken a decisive stance. Preventing Fugaku today doesn't mean the next generation won't follow the same path in the future. Fugaku-sama will ensure they don't. They will listen to him. I wouldn't be so certain. Danzo's gaze hardened as he stepped forward. Which is why I will take your eyes for safekeeping. Without hesitation, he lunged at Shisui, attempting to seize one of his eyes. Forgive me. Koto Umatsukami. Shisui turned to leave, but before he could react, a sudden strike landed hard against his stomach, followed by a powerful kick to his chest. Staggering, he looked up in confusion, only to see Danzo standing before him again. Something felt off, his body was growing weaker with each passing second. Danzo charged at him once more, aiming for his eye. Shisui's eyes widened, Danzo was moving too fast. There was no time to react. A sudden surge of green energy erupted, forcing Danzo backward. Susanoo, Shisui muttered, as a skeletal ribcage formed around him, shielding him from further attacks. However, his strength was draining rapidly, he needed to escape. With a flicker, he vanished into the forest. A group of 12 Rudanbu appeared at Danzo's side. Retrieve the eyes. If necessary, eliminate him. He won't get far, the poison is already taking effect. Without hesitation, they pursued Shisui, hurling kunai embedded with explosive tags, forcing him to move constantly. Every moment spent dodging only worsened his condition. If this keeps up, whatever Danzo did to me will end me before I can warn Itachi. Gathering his resolve, he flickered behind one of the Anbu, swiftly taking him down before the others launched another barrage of kunai. Shisui barely managed to escape to a tree branch 50 feet away, breathing heavily. His knees buckled, his strength was fading fast. No. I can't fall here. Susanoo. A fully formed Susanoo materialized around him, pushing back his pursuers. In the clearing below, he unleashed a barrage of chakra-infused projectiles, swiftly incapacitating the remaining Anbu. But the strain was unbearable. His Susanoo shattered as exhaustion took over. His entire body burned as if every cell was aflame. Danzo reappeared, now accompanied by 40 more root operatives. Shisui knew he stood no chance, not in his current condition. Escape was no longer an option. The poison was relentless. You have proven yourself to be a formidable warrior, Shisui Uchiha, Danzo remarked. But this is where it ends. Shisui clenched his fists. You won't win, Danzo? I still. He staggered, coughing violently as blood stained his lips. Panic gripped him. What can I do? Suddenly, a series of explosions erupted across the clearing. Thick smoke filled the air, and when it cleared, Shisui was gone. Danzo scowled. He escaped. Withdraw. Dash. Shisui struggled to keep his eyes open as he leaned against a tree, his breathing ragged. His vision blurred, but he could still make out the figure before him. Itachi? Why are you? Cough here? Itachi gave him a pained smile. I had a terrible feeling. So I came as fast as I could. Shisui exhaled a weak chuckle. I'm sorry for making you worry, my friend. Itachi knelt beside him, supporting his weight. Gently, he helped Shisui toward their training ground. As they reached the edge of the ravine, Shisui gazed out at the horizon. Itachi stood behind him, his expression filled with unspoken sorrow. Itachi. Danzo poisoned me. He tried to take my eyes. He doesn't trust me at all. Itachi's eyes widened, but before he could respond, Shisui continued. Now that I think about it, I wouldn't be surprised if Danzo was orchestrating everything from the start. It all makes sense now. Then we should stop him, Itachi said, his voice firm. No, Itachi. He is a high-ranking elder of the village. To act against him would be considered treason. There is nothing we can do. And there is nothing I can do. Itachi clenched his fists. What do you mean? His voice wavered, his composure barely holding. Shisui gave a faint smile. The poison is working fast. I don't think I'll make it through the night. No. Please. Itachi's voice cracked, and tears welled in his eyes. Listen to me, Itachi. You are my best friend. Through you and Naruko, I found something I had lost. You two brought me happiness these past 6 years, and I will always be grateful. In a world that often feels cold and dark, I'm glad I had you both. Tears streamed down Itachi's face as he shook his head. Danzo will come for my eyes again. Before that happens, I want you to have them. What? I can't allow him to take these eyes. They hold a power that should never fall into the wrong hands. You must not speak of this to anyone except Lord Third. When the time comes, I want you to pass my eyes on to Naruko. With a determined expression, Shisui carefully removed his eyes and handed them to Itachi. Shisui. Please, don't do this, Itachi pleaded, his voice filled with desperation. I'm already beyond saving. But before I go, I want to entrust you with a new power, one that will help you protect those we care about and bring honor to the Uchiha name. The Mangekyo Sharingan. No, please, there has to be another way. Shisui gave a small, bittersweet smile. I'm sorry, Itachi. I wish I could be there to guide you through the difficult path ahead. It will be lonely, and there will be times when you feel like you can't go on, but you must. Stay strong. Here, take my tanto. I want you to give this to Naruko. I also just realized, I promised Naruko we'd go to Ichiraku Ramen tomorrow. She's going to be so mad at me. He chuckled softly. Itachi's expression grew even more distressed. Shisui, we can find another way. Don't look at me like that, Itachi. Even without my eyes, I can still see the worry on your face. That look doesn't suit you. You must always remain composed, that is who you are. You don't have to do this, Itachi insisted. Shisui smiled warmly. You're my best friend, Itachi. Look after Naruko and Sasuke for me. Protect them, and protect the Uchiha name. With those final words, Shisui took a few steps back. If you truly consider me your friend, then don't try to stop me. Before Itachi could react, Shisui stepped off the edge, disappearing into the depths of the ravine. No. Shisui. Itachi lunged forward, reaching out, but it was too late. He watched helplessly as his friend vanished from sight. Standing at the edge, his hands clenched into fists, tears streamed from his dark eyes. And then, suddenly, his vision shifted. His eyes burned as they transformed, a black, three-pronged shuriken pattern swirling into existence. The Mangekyo Sharingan had awakened. Something felt off. Naruko reached for her chest, an uneasy sensation settling deep within her. It was already 9:30 p.m., and Shisui had yet to return. He had left at 4, promising to be back within a few hours, 9 at the latest. A bad feeling had lingered since his departure, but now it was growing stronger, an inexplicable heaviness in her heart. Hoping to distract herself, Naruko stepped into the dojo and began training. Practicing always helped clear her mind, allowing her to refocus. She had been thrilled the night before after mastering a complex genjutsu and was already brainstorming ways to refine it further. Unfortunately, the technique was already well established, leaving little room for modification. The only improvement she had achieved was executing it without physical contact. The nature of the genjutsu forced an individual to experience their deepest fears, an illusion so vivid that it felt real. The more chakra invested, the more immersive the experience, bringing their worst nightmare to life. Naruko had read that true genjutsu masters didn't rely solely on pre-existing techniques. Instead, their creativity and imagination shaped their illusions, making them unique and unpredictable. She wondered if she could ever reach that level. Could she develop genjutsu entirely her own? She wasn't sure, but she knew one thing: if Shisui believed in her, she wouldn't let him down. A sudden chime from the doorbell interrupted her thoughts. Naruko paused, grabbing a towel and water bottle before heading toward the entrance. She expected to see Shisui, but instead, 3 familiar figures stood outside. Itachi ni? Uncle Kakashi? Lord Third? Naruko blinked, puzzled. Something was wrong. It was evident in their faces, Itachi's regretful expression, Kakashi's solemn gaze, and the third Hokage's heavy presence. Guys? What's going on? She asked, her voice quieter now. I've had a terrible feeling for hours. Ni-san was supposed to be back by now. That sinking sensation in her chest deepened, twisting into something unbearable. It was as if something was pressing down on her heart, pulling it into the pit of her stomach. Naruko? Itachi's voice was thick with emotion. Shisui. He's gone. Tears slipped from his eyes despite his best efforts to remain composed. He had tried to hold them back, but it was impossible. Naruko took a step back, shaking her head. No. No, you're lying. She cried, voice breaking. He wouldn't just leave. He promised. Her entire world shattered. The one person who had always been there, who supported her, encouraged her, believed in her, was gone. Memories flooded her mind in an overwhelming rush. The time she had chased Shisui around the house, the hours spent coloring together, his patient guidance as he taught her new techniques, The quiet moments spent cooking and laughing side by side. Each moment replayed vividly, as if refusing to let go. No. It can't be. A sudden glow flickered in her eyes, drawing everyone's attention. At first, Kakashi and the third Hokage feared the worst, that the Kyuubi's power was surfacing in her grief. But what they saw surprised them. Her Sharingan was spinning wildly, its usual pattern shifting. The Tomoe expanded, morphing into a new shape. 6 triangles formed, their bases connected to create a hexagonal design. A black circle appeared in the center, surrounded by a thin ring. Itachi's breath hitched. It can't be. Her Mangekyo Sharingan had awakened. Naruko clenched her head, tears streaming down her face as she fell to her knees. She looked up one last time, hoping, praying, that this was some kind of mistake. But the sorrow in their eyes confirmed the truth. Her vision blurred, her new Mangekyo fading as exhaustion overtook her. Then, everything went dark. Kakashi turned to the Hokage. Lord Third, what should we do? Hiruzen's expression was grave. I'm not sure. Itachi knelt beside Naruko, his expression unreadable. I'll stay with her. Shisui entrusted me with something for her. I'll give it to her in the morning. The Hokage hesitated. Are you sure, Itachi? He nodded. Yes, Lord Third. I also need to assess her eyes. If this was a true awakening or just a temporary flare, like when I first unlocked my Sharingan. Hiruzen sighed, the weight of the situation heavy on his shoulders. Understood. If you need anything, let me know. With that, he vanished in a swirl of smoke. Kakashi placed a reassuring hand on Itachi's shoulder. If you need support, don't hesitate to reach out. Itachi gave a small nod. Thank you, Captain. As silence filled the room, he turned back to Naruko, watching over her as she slept. The journey ahead would be difficult, but he would ensure she wouldn't face it alone. Itachi was now alone with Naruko. He gently brought her to his room and helped her settle onto the bed. Tears welled up in his eyes as he reflected on how to honor Shisui's wishes. Shisui had been his inspiration, his closest companion, and his guiding light. Now, with only Sasuke and Naruko left, he wondered how he would move forward. The next morning, Naruko woke up feeling a bit groggy. She blinked a few times before noticing Itachi sitting beside her. As her mind cleared, the memories of the previous night flooded back, and she felt a wave of emotion overcome her. What was supposed to have been one of the happiest days of her life had taken an unexpected turn. Good morning, Naruko-kun. How are you feeling? Itachi asked gently. How am I feeling? That's what you have to say. She burst out, frustration and sorrow evident in her voice. But as soon as she met Itachi's gaze, she looked down in embarrassment. She knew he understood, he and Shisui had been the closest of friends. Of course, he knew what it was like to lose someone dear. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. It's all right. I understand, Itachi reassured her. Does the pain ever go away? She asked hesitantly. I'm not sure, he admitted. But I do know that each day, it helps you grow stronger. You carry their memory with you, and in doing so, you honor them. He placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. I was finally making him proud, Naruko murmured, her eyes drifting toward a picture of herself and Shisui on the dresser. I was just starting to reach the potential he always believed I had. Naruko-kun, Itachi said softly, he was always proud of you. He always spoke about how much you meant to him and how you brightened his world. A small smile formed on his face, even as a tear slipped down his cheek. Before he left, he asked me to give you something. He reached for a rectangular box and a scroll. Naruko carefully lifted the lid of the box, revealing Shisui's tanto. She recognized it immediately. It was the very sword he had always taken such great care of, sharpening and maintaining it with precision. A small, nostalgic smile appeared on her face as she gently held the handle and ran her fingers along the blade. Itachi watched her with quiet understanding, knowing how much this gift meant to her. The scroll contained a few fire-style techniques and 2 genjutsu techniques, along with a handwritten note. Naruko, now that you're able to go outside more, I figured it was time for you to begin training in ninjutsu. The first technique is the Great Fireball Jutsu, a signature technique of our clan. Make sure to practice over a river until you have full control of it. The second is the Phoenix Flower Jutsu. To expand your genjutsu skills, I've included 2 techniques. The first is a C rank called Demonic Illusion, False Surroundings. With this, you'll be able to change the appearance of objects around you. At its most advanced level, you can completely alter the way the environment looks. The second is an A rank technique called Bringer of Darkness. This will temporarily blind your opponent by surrounding them in complete darkness. It's the most advanced jutsu I've included, and it will be challenging, but I have no doubt you can master it. If you ever need help, Itachi and I will always be here for you. Happy birthday, Naruko. A warmth spread through Naruko's heart as she held the note close, feeling Shisui's encouragement even now. She wiped her eyes, determination shining within them. She would honor his teachings, just as he had always believed she could. I'm going to go train, Itachi-ni-san. I'll see you later. One more thing, Naruko-kun, could you activate your Sharingan for me? Sure? Naruko complied, her eyes shifting as she focused. Now try channeling more chakra into it. She attempted to do so, but there was no noticeable change. Her Sharingan remained at the standard 3 Tomoe stage. That's a relief. Looks like you can't fully activate it yet. That gives us more time. Naruko tilted her head. Why did you ask me to do that? No particular reason. Just curiosity, Itachi replied with a small smile. By the way, Naruko-kun, I know you dedicate yourself to training every day, but now that you're allowed to explore the village, would you like to take a break and look around? No. Itachi raised an eyebrow. Why not? I just don't feel like it anymore. At first, I was excited, but now, I only want to get stronger, to make Nissan proud. Itachi nodded in understanding. He wasn't going to push the matter. If Naruko didn't want to go, he wouldn't force her. Naruko-kun, I have an idea. Would you like to learn something that Shisui and I developed together? Naruko's eyes lit up. Really? Where do we start? Itachi chuckled at her enthusiasm. He led her to a clearing in the forest, where he suddenly dissolved into a flock of crows, only to reform a short distance away. Whoa! So it's similar to a clone technique, but instead of disappearing in smoke, you disperse into crows. That's incredible. Itachi nodded. That's not all, Naruko-kun. This technique was originally created as an improvement to the standard substitution jutsu. It can also be integrated into genjutsu. Naruko's excitement grew as she immediately set to work, eager to master the technique. 4 hours later. She learns astonishingly fast, Itachi mused as he observed Naruko's progress. She had already begun experimenting with different applications, seamlessly incorporating the crow technique into her training. Alright, Naruko-kun, let's take a break and grab something to eat, okay? Okay. Can we visit Gigi? Of course. Hokage Tower. Happy birthday, Naruko-kun, Hiruzen greeted warmly. Thanks, Gigi. How's everything going? Just a lot of paperwork, as usual, the Hokage chuckled. And what about you? How have you been spending your day? He studied her carefully, concerned about how she was coping after the difficult news she had received the night before. Itachi-ni-san taught me a new technique using crows. She said enthusiastically. Oh? Could you demonstrate? Hi. Naruko raised her right hand, forming a hand sign with her index and middle fingers extended. In an instant, a flock of crows materialized and coalesced into an identical clone of herself. The clone then dispersed and reformed on the opposite side of Itachi. With another flick of her fingers, she created a second clone, positioning it beside her. Hiruzen watched in intrigue as both clones suddenly vanished into a flurry of crows, reforming once more before dissipating entirely. He chuckled, nodding approvingly. Very impressive, Naruko-kun. Not only can you create clones, but you've also found a way to integrate them into genjutsu as well. Naruko grinned. And it can be used for substitution jutsu too. Hiruzen smiled warmly, pleased to see her enthusiasm. You truly are remarkable. You learned a lot today, Naruko-chan? I'm truly impressed. How about we go for some ramen at 5? Thank you so much. Can Itachi-ni-san, Uncle Kakashi, and Yugao-sensei join us? Of course. The more, the merrier. See you later, Gigi. Itachi-ni-san mentioned something about meeting someone. Alright, Naruko-chan. See you both later. As they stepped out, Naruko and Itachi strolled through the village, heading south. So, Itachi-ni-san, who am I meeting? My little sister, Itachi replied with a smile. In truth, they would have met 2 years ago, but circumstances had delayed their introduction. After about 30 minutes of walking, they arrived at the entrance of the Uchiha compound. A grand gateway marked the entrance, and beyond it lay what felt like a small village of its own. Lined with various shops, restaurants, and residences, the compound had a distinct charm. At its center stood the police headquarters, and just a few blocks away was where Itachi's family resided. So, what is she like? Naruko asked with curiosity. Itachi smiled as he thought about her. She's a little shorter than you, kind and thoughtful, not quite as playful as you, but incredibly intelligent. She sounds interesting. As they walked through the compound, Naruko couldn't help but notice some wary glances directed at her. The Uchiha members didn't seem particularly welcoming to outsiders, which puzzled her. A strange voice suddenly echoed in her mind. End it. It will make the pain go away. Naruko stopped in her tracks, her expression shifting to confusion. Huh? Who said that? Itachi looked at her curiously. What's wrong? Just let it go. The pain will disappear. The unsettling whispers continued, and Naruko instinctively clutched her head, trying to shut them out. Itachi immediately noticed her distress. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder, shaking her slightly to bring her back to reality. When she looked up at him, her deep black eyes reflected a quiet sadness she had tried to suppress. You okay, Naruko-chan? He asked with concern. She took a deep breath and forced a small smile. Yeah. Let's just keep going. Itachi studied her for a moment before nodding. All right, but if you ever... I know, Nisan. I know you're always there, she interrupted softly. They continued walking until they reached a large house, fitting for the head of the Uchiha clan. The property boasted a spacious front yard and a well-maintained backyard. There was also a small dojo and an outdoor training area, likely used for practice drills. Nisan. A cheerful voice called out, and a young girl came running toward them. Hey there, Itachi greeted warmly. I'd like you to meet someone. Who? Last time you introduced me to someone, it was Shisui-san. Itachi's smile faltered for the briefest moment at the mention of Shisui, but he quickly composed himself. Naruko, too, remained silent, though a deep ache tugged at her heart. This is Naruko, Itachi introduced. She's Shisui's little cousin. The two of them were incredibly close, more like siblings than cousins. Naruko felt a pang in her chest at those words. Shisui had been her only family, and now she was alone. Sasuke, this is Naruko-chan, Itachi said, stepping aside to let his sister get a better look. Sasuke took in the newcomer's appearance, jet black hair with striking red highlights, deep ebony eyes that seemed to hold a quiet intensity, and a casual yet distinctive outfit, a sleeveless black hoodie over an orange t-shirt, black wristbands, shorts, and black sandals. Sasuke herself had short jet black hair that framed her face, with bangs reaching eye level. She wore a navy blue blouse with the Uchiha crest on the back, paired with black pants and sandals. Hello, Sasuke-chan, Naruko greeted with a friendly wave. Sasuke simply stood there, momentarily at a loss for words. She wasn't sure why, but something about Naruko made her pause. Something wrong? Naruko asked, tilting her head slightly. Huh? And no, I just, hi, Sasuke quickly corrected herself. Itachi raised an eyebrow at the interaction, observing them with amusement but choosing to keep his thoughts to himself. So, Sasuke, he finally said, it's Naruko-chan's birthday today. Would you like to join us for dinner with Lord Third? A few of my other friends will be there too. Sasuke blinked before turning to Naruko. It's your birthday? Happy birthday, Naruko. And sure, I'd love to join. Thank you, Sasuke-chan. Naruko smiled before turning to Itachi as if silently asking, what now? You two take some time to get to know each other. I'll be right back, Itachi said warmly before heading into the house, leaving Naruko and Sasuke alone in the quiet yard. For a moment, silence filled the space between them. Naruko glanced up at the clear sky, searching for something, anything, to break the awkwardness. Finally, she spoke, even if it sounded a little silly. Sue. Nice weather, huh? She said, trying to sound casual. Sasuke's light laugh broke the silence, making Naruko smile in return. Yeah, I guess it is. You're kind of a goof. Just like Shisui-san. I can definitely see the resemblance now. Naruko's smile grew, though she looked down shyly. Yeah. I get that a lot. Are you starting at the academy next year? Sasuke nodded. What about you? Yup. Have you been practicing? A little. My brother trains me sometimes, mostly with throwing techniques and basic forms. Oh, cool. I haven't learned much about that yet. We've been meaning to start now that I finished my swordsmanship lessons. Sasuke's eyes lit up with curiosity. Really? What kind of things did you learn? Naruko counted on her fingers. Hand-to-hand techniques, the interceptor style, swordsmanship, illusions. I'm still working on elemental techniques. Sasuke's eyes widened. That's a lot. How about this, if you help me with swordsmanship, I'll help you with throwing techniques? Naruko's grin returned, brighter than ever. Deal. Naruko smiled, though as the day went on, a quiet sadness settled over her. Everywhere she turned, something reminded her of Shisui. You know, you have pretty unique hair, someone commented. I don't know about that, Naruko responded casually. And those whisker-like marks on your face are interesting too. Not really sure about that either. You don't know your parents? No, Naruko admitted, looking away. Oh. I'm sorry, the person replied, realizing for the first time that Naruko had never known her family. There was something she seemed to be holding back, but they didn't press further. It's okay, Naruko said with a small smile. Just then, a voice called out, Hey, are you guys ready to go? Yes. What took you so long, Ni-san? Sasuke asked. Oh, nothing. Just had to put something away and get ready for a mission tomorrow night, Itachi replied smoothly. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the full truth either. He had indeed put something away, Shisui's keepsakes, which he had been safeguarding since the previous night. From his vantage point, he had noticed Naruko talking with the others and felt relieved. Maybe she was forming new bonds, and that was important. As they walked toward Ichiraku's, Naruko became quieter, lost in her own thoughts. Itachi noticed right away and grew concerned. He wished he could say something, but with his sister there, it wasn't the right time. He worried about the emotions building up inside Naruko, especially since her chakra had an unusual balance. The Sharingan already heightened emotions, and if her feelings became too overwhelming, it could make everything even harder to manage. When they arrived, a small gathering was waiting. Happy birthday, Naruko. Yugao, Kakashi, and Hiruzen greeted her warmly. Naruko nodded and smiled, grateful for their kindness. She sat in the center with Sasuke beside her while everyone else surrounded them. As they chatted, she shared updates on her training, and the group was impressed by how quickly she seemed to recover from difficult experiences. But only Itachi knew the truth. Naruko was holding everything inside, pushing forward despite the weight of her emotions. He hadn't had a chance to tell the others yet, having stayed by her side the entire time. He planned to talk to them afterward. After the meal, it was time for gifts. Yugao gave Naruko a shoulder sheath, similar to the one Shisui had worn, except in black. Hiruzen gifted her a set of 50 shuriken and 25 kunai. Kakashi presented her with books on ninjutsu and fuinjutsu, along with a scroll containing techniques she could learn over time. Kakashi knew Naruko would throw herself into training. It was what he had done in the past when faced with hardship. He hoped the books would give her structure and direction, knowing she had a habit of mastering techniques until they reached their full potential. It was a trait reminiscent of Minato. Hiruzen understood that Naruko was about to begin her shuriken training, and Yugao, aware of Shisui's influence, chose her gift as a way to honor that connection. Finally, Itachi stepped forward. His gift wasn't something tangible, it was knowledge. He offered to teach Naruko a genjutsu that Shisui had developed, one that had been passed down to him. "It's only right that you learn it too," he said. "It can be something that ties us all together. Shisui would have wanted you to have it." Naruko's expression softened. "Thank you all. I really appreciate this. You guys mean a lot to me." The sadness in her voice was there, just beneath the surface, though she hid it well. Everyone noticed, everyone except Sasuke, who had only just met her and didn't yet understand how much she had endured. After a brief silence, Naruko stood. "I'm going to get some training in. See you all later." And with that, she disappeared in a blur of movement, determined to perfect her newest technique. "Wow! Does she always train this much?" Sasuke asked. Everyone exchanged glances before nodding. Shisui trained her every day, from morning until she could barely stand, Itachi explained. That reminds me, where is he? You said they were like siblings." The group froze for a moment. Only they knew the truth, and it wasn't something that had been made public yet. "He's on a long mission," Kakashi said after a brief pause. "Oh, all right then," Sasuke shrugged, not thinking much of it. The others let out a quiet sigh of relief. 1 year later. A lot had changed over the past year. Naruko's bond with Sasuke deepened, yet Sasuke became increasingly reserved. It was widely believed that Shisui had chosen to disappear rather than having been harmed. Meanwhile, tensions between the village and the Uchiha clan continued to escalate. Kakashi was no longer a full-time member of the Anbu. While he occasionally took on missions, his primary role was now that of a Jonin leader. However, he had yet to pass a single Jonin team. Itachi had quickly risen through the ranks, becoming the youngest Anbu captain since Kakashi, earning a reputation for his exceptional abilities. Yugao continued her Anbu duties, serving as a guard to the Hokage. Both Sasuke and Naruko were set to begin their academy training in a few months. Sasuke was excited about it, while Naruko remained neutral, though she did look forward to becoming a ninja. Unfortunately, news of Naruko's status as a Jinchuriki had somehow spread, leading many adults in the village to treat her with disdain. This made Naruko feel isolated, and she often struggled with intrusive thoughts that urged her to distance herself from others. To cope, she spent most of her time alone, only venturing out when necessary, mainly to train in the Forest of Death. Through relentless practice, Naruko had mastered the body flicker technique, allowing her to move swiftly in battle without losing control. When using her Sharingan, she had no difficulty maintaining precision, but she made a conscious decision not to rely on it too much. She had also perfected the fire-style techniques that Shisui had passed down to her, able to execute them with a single hand sign. In addition, she diligently worked on the techniques Kakashi had introduced to her, though she had yet to have her chakra affinities officially tested. The fire-style techniques she was learning included Dragon Flame Bomb, Fire Breath, and Great Dragon Flame, all of which were classified as B rank, requiring time and effort to master. Itachi had also taught her Shisui's signature genjutsu, Mirror Heaven and Earth Change, which she successfully mastered. Her skill set was steadily expanding. Additionally, her proficiency in shuriken techniques improved significantly, thanks to Sasuke's help, while she, in turn, assisted Sasuke in refining her swordsmanship. During her time in the Forest of Death, Naruko met Shikamaru Nara, heir to the Nara clan, which held authority over the area. She quickly recognized his remarkable intelligence, despite his tendency toward laziness. The two gradually formed a close friendship. However, after teaching Naruko the genjutsu, Itachi began to distance himself from those around him. This left many confused, except for Naruko, who was too focused on her training to question it. Sasuke, however, felt saddened by her brother's growing detachment, so she immersed herself in training, following Naruko's guidance to enhance her swordsmanship. Hokage's office. Lord 3rd. Yes, Itachi-kun? The clan intends to act within a week. We need to formulate a strategy. If we delay, the consequences could be severe for everyone. I understand. What do you suggest? I'm not certain, but as circumstances unfold, we may need to take action. Are you sure about this? Yes. In fact, I will be the one to handle it. I will take responsibility for the situation, ensuring that any misunderstandings are avoided. My priority is to look after Sasuke and Naruko-kun. Itachi. I don't know if I could ever ask such a thing of you. You aren't asking, I'm choosing to do this. But you must promise to take care of them. Naruko-kun needs support and encouragement. Right now, she is struggling with an internal battle, and if she continues down this path alone, she may find it difficult to overcome. How do you know this? In an effort to suppress her inner turmoil, she has isolated herself, speaking only when necessary. She needs companionship, understanding, and kindness, Lord 3rd. Hiruzen nodded, fully grasping the gravity of the situation. The weight of loneliness and sorrow can be overwhelming, especially for someone as young as Naruko. With additional external influences, it could lead to emotional distress. Is there anything else you need from me? Yes, one last request. Naruko is the youngest Uchiha to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan. When she begins using it, her vision will gradually decline. When that time comes, please ensure she receives these eyes, they belong to Shisui. By doing so, she will not only gain enhanced abilities but also restore her eyesight permanently. Hiruzen looked at Itachi, surprised. Furthermore, once she attains the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, it will no longer cause her emotional strain. It will grant her stability rather than intensify any distress. However, you must wait until her vision begins to weaken before proceeding with this. Understood, Itachi-kun. I will follow your instructions and keep a close watch over them both. Thank you. I need to make the necessary preparations now. You plan to do this tonight? Yes. The longer we delay, the more complicated things become. I will arrange for Sasuke to visit Naruko-kun for training while I handle everything else. All right. Report back to me once everything is settled. Hi. Hiruzen felt a deep sense of regret that circumstances had unfolded this way. If Danzo had not interfered, perhaps things would have taken a different path. Naruko wouldn't be struggling with so much turmoil, and Shisui would still be by her side. Danzo always seemed to complicate matters. Maybe it was time to stop overlooking his actions and start addressing them properly. This situation had reached a tipping point. Hey, Sasuke, Itachi called out, watching his sister practice her sword techniques. Ni-san. She ran to him and embraced him tightly. He returned the hug just as firmly, cherishing the moment as he took in her expression, her bright eyes, engraving every detail in his memory. Why don't you visit Naruko-kun? Why? We didn't plan anything. I know, but she could really use a friend right now. Plus, I'm sure you'd enjoy some extra training, maybe even a kenjutsu spar. Sasuke couldn't deny that. Lately, she had felt like her growth had plateaued, so working with Naruko might help push her forward again. She had also noticed that Naruko had been keeping to herself more often. "Alright, I'll go. She's in the training grounds near the Forest of Death. Stay a few days if you need to." "Okay. See you later, Ni-san." She gave him one last hug before packing a small bag with clothes and taking her katana. She even grabbed a tub of sweet dumplings, something she knew Naruko enjoyed. "I'm sorry, Sasuke. This is for the best. Take care of each other." Sasuke made her way through the village, eager to reach Naruko's usual training area. She was excited, not just for the chance to improve her skills but also to spend time with Naruko, who, despite becoming more distant, was always warm toward her. She didn't know everything that was going on, but she could tell Naruko was struggling. After hearing about Shisui's disappearance, she suspected that might be the cause. Maybe if she stayed with her for a while, she could help. When Itachi mentioned that Naruko needed a friend, Sasuke realized this was her opportunity to make a difference. Maybe I should ask her about that teleportation technique she uses. She ran for another 30 minutes until she reached the entrance to the training grounds. The faint smell of smoke lingered in the air, sparking her curiosity. Picking up her pace, she raced toward the clearing where Naruko often trained. As she drew closer, she noticed the ground and trees were charred, with embers scattered around. Her interest grew, and when she finally reached the clearing, she saw Naruko, her Sharingan activated, breathing heavily. Ash swirled around her, and remnants of fire flickered in the air. It was clear that intense training had taken place. Sasuke observed the determination in her eyes as she formed another hand sign. In an instant, a dragon made of fire surged forward, moving with precision under her control. Sasuke watched in awe as Naruko guided it through the air, until she lost her grip on the technique, causing it to explode into embers. Now it made sense why the area was covered in ash. Naruko wasn't frustrated by the mistake, it was as if she had expected it. She simply continued practicing, repeating the process tirelessly. Sasuke had never seen her train so intensely before, and now she understood how Naruko had grown so strong. She just kept pushing herself, never stopping until she had nothing left to give. But how could she sustain this kind of training? Wouldn't she be too exhausted to continue the next day? It didn't add up. So many questions surrounded Naruko. Then, Sasuke saw her pause, taking a deep breath. A smile spread across her face, replacing the tension from earlier. "Sasuke-chan. You made it." Naruko turned to her with a bright expression, the intensity from before suddenly gone. Sasuke ran over, greeting her with a hug. She explained that she planned to stay for a few days to train, if Naruko was okay with it. Naruko readily agreed. "Great. Now I can show you a new Kenjutsu technique." "Yes. When do we start?" Naruko's eyes lit up with excitement as she eagerly anticipated learning something new. She always appreciated how focused and dedicated Itachi was when helping her. No matter what he was doing, he always took the time to support her in any way she needed. "Right now," he responded with a small smile. "I'm going to teach you something Ni-san showed me a few years ago." The memory of Shisui was bittersweet, but he was learning to carry it with strength rather than sorrow. It's called the Uchiha style, Dance of the Sun Halo. This technique enhances swordsmanship by incorporating fire chakra. He demonstrated by smoothly unsheathing his tanto and placing his left hand on the hilt. You channel fire chakra into the blade, and with each movement, a wave of energy is released. As he moved, a controlled, warm glow surrounded the weapon, making it seem almost alive. You make it look so easy," Sasuke observed with admiration. "You'll get the hang of it in no time," Naruko assured her. "Since you use a katana instead of a tanto, the energy wave will naturally be larger. The strength and reach of the technique depend entirely on the user's mastery." Sasuke looked thoughtful for a moment before asking, "Hey, Naruko?" "Yes." "When did you awaken your Sharingan?" "I was 4. Naruko replied, her voice steady. Sasuke's eyes widened in surprise as she realized Naruko had possessed the dojutsu for nearly as long as she had been able to control chakra. Is that why you learned so quickly? Naruko shook her head. No, Sasuke-chan. The Sharingan is an incredible tool, but I don't rely on it to learn techniques. I train consistently until I achieve true mastery. While it's true that the Sharingan allows you to observe and memorize techniques, that alone doesn't make someone a master. Sasuke nodded thoughtfully. She had noticed that Naruko could perform techniques with minimal or even no hand signs, a testament to her relentless dedication. I do use the Sharingan when necessary, Naruko continued, but I want to be strong on my own. If I ever reach a point where I'm too tired to activate it, I still need to be capable of holding my own. Sasuke smiled. That makes sense. So, what's the first step? They spent several hours training together, refining their technique and experimenting with chakra control. As the sun began to set, they took a break under a nearby tree, sharing a plate of sweet dumplings. Naruko looked at Sasuke thoughtfully. You know, something I've realized about this technique is that we mold fire chakra directly in our hands. She demonstrated, forming small flames that flickered gently in her palm. What do you think we could do with this ability beyond just infusing it into a weapon? Sasuke furrowed her brows in contemplation. I'm not sure. I didn't even know this was possible until today. It's frustrating, I can only maintain the energy for one strike before it fades. She crossed her arms in mild annoyance. Naruko chuckled. You'll get it soon. It took me a few days to master. But think about it, what if we could apply this concept to other techniques? If chakra is just energy, shaped by our will, maybe we don't need hand signs at all. She stood up, her determination evident, and attempted to perform the great fireball technique without forming a single seal. A small fireball appeared in front of her, though weaker than usual, it had worked. Sasuke watched in awe. Naruko, you might be onto something. With enough practice, you might be able to perform techniques instantly, without needing any hand signs at all. Naruko smiled at the possibility. This was only the beginning. She felt a wave of unease as she turned around, her eyes widening in disbelief. Before her stood Itachi, his presence unwavering. No. You couldn't have, she whispered, struggling to comprehend the situation. Tsukuyomi, Itachi said calmly as their eyes met. Within the illusion woven by his Mangekyo, she experienced an entire lifetime, one filled with joy, love, and family. In that world, she and Itachi shared a peaceful life together, growing old with cherished memories. Yet, as the illusion faded, she found herself overwhelmed by an inexplicable exhaustion, as if the weight of an entire lifetime had settled upon her in an instant. Itachi gently held her, his expression soft yet unreadable. Thank you for being a part of my life, he murmured, a single tear slipping down his cheek. He carefully laid her down, ensuring she was at peace before standing once more. Despite all the time that had passed within the illusion, the real world remained untouched, as if not a single moment had gone by. He knew his path was far from over, and the most difficult moments still lay ahead. She arrived at the house, moving carefully and quietly through the halls. Her thoughts raced as she wondered where they might be. Suddenly, a voice pulled her from her thoughts. We're in here, Itachi. There's no need for conflict, Fugaku said gently. Peering into the great room, she pushed open the door and found Fugaku and Mikoto seated calmly on their knees, facing away from her. I have no desire for a battle, my child. Unlike you, our pain will be brief, Fugaku said with a sense of finality. Itachi took slow steps toward them, her hands trembling as emotions overwhelmed her. Tears welled in her eyes, something she had never experienced in a moment like this. She hesitated, unable to take the next step. You have always been kind, Itachi. Even if our perspectives were different, I am proud of you, my child. Stay true to your path, and please, take care of Sasuke. I will, father, Itachi whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. Overcome by the weight of her choices, She fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. She had made an unimaginable sacrifice, all for the sake of the village and the well-being of Sasuke and Naruko. Regaining her composure, she swiftly made her way to the Hokage's office. "It is done," she announced. "Itachi-kun." Hiruzen responded, sadness in his voice. "How much time do I have?" she asked. "You have 3 days to travel as far as possible. What will you do next?" "I've learned about a group that will take me in. I'll send intelligence whenever I can. I hate that this was necessary. But I am grateful for what you've done to protect the village," Hiruzen said solemnly. Itachi gave a small nod. "Please. Watch over Naruko and Sasuke." "I will, Itachi-kun." "Thank you, Lord Third." "There's no need to thank me. It's the least I can do for you." With that, Itachi vanished into the night, her silhouette dissolving into a flurry of crows. Within 3 days, the village would brand her a traitor, but only she would know the truth behind her actions. Dear YouTube family, that concludes this part of the story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel for more content. Thank you for your support. Gratefully, Anime Dreams.